Alright, so in this video, I will teach you what variables are and how we use them in programming. Okay, so basically you can think of a variable as a box that contains a value, and that box has a name and a data type. Okay, so you can think of variables as boxes that hold a value. So they have a value, then they also have a name, and this value has a data type. So the value of the variable has a data type. So that's basically how we name a variable. For example, this is an example over here. We specify the data type, we say int, and I'll tell you what int is in a moment. Int my number, this is the name of the variable, equals 45. 45 would be the value that this variable holds. So if we print my number to the console, 45 will appear in the console. Data types, as you can see here, we have many different types of data types, if that makes sense. We have integer data types, or we call them int in an abbreviated form. They can be whole numbers, any whole number you can think of. So 3, 4, 56, 76, 87, etc. Then we have float variables, float data types. The float data types specifies that the variable can only hold values like 3.4, 4.67, 1.24, so they can only hold decimal numbers. A variable that has a data type of string can only hold values like words first, and these words go in between quotation marks. So in between quotation marks, anything you write, that is a string. And then bool or boolean variables can hold one of two values. They can either be true or false. So here is a quick challenge that I created for you, and here I tell you that you have to create a variable of each data type and print them to the console. Okay, so pause the video and try to do it with the structure that I told you. You have to first create the variable, and then you have to print the variable to the console. So try to do it, pause the video, and I'll see you in a moment. Alright, so to do this, let's go to our Visual Studio, to our main class, and in here let's create a variable. Inside the start method we will create a variable of each type. So let's start by creating an int variable. So first of all we have to declare the type, so int. Then we can call the variable with a name. We can say my number, so our variable's name is gonna be my number, and then we're gonna equal that to a value. For example, we can equal that to 3. Okay, so we have our first variable. We have declared our first variable. Now let's declare a variable of type float. For example, we can call this my decimal, and let's equal that to 4.5. And in Unity, if you type in, I typed in 5.6. Okay, so in Unity, if you declare a float variable, you can see that if you only type 5.6, there is like a red line here. This is telling us that there is an error, or there is something wrong happening with this, going on with this. So it says literal of type double cannot be implicitly converted to type float. Use an f suffix to create a literal of this type. So we need to add in an f. So whenever you create a float variable, just make sure that the value has an f at the end. Okay, that's the way you write it here in Unity or in Visual Studio. Now let's create a variable of type string. So I'm going to type in the data type string. I'm going to call this my name, for example. I'm going to equal this to the value, and the value, remember that for the string variables, the value has to go inside quotation marks. So open quotes, and then I'm going to type in my name, Joseph, like this. And remember to always end the statement with a semicolon. Very important to end the statement with the semicolon. And now we only have to create a variable of type bool. So let's type in the data type bool, and I'm gonna call this is dead. So imagine that we have a player in our game, and we want to have a variable to check if the player is dead or is alive. So bool is dead. I'm gonna equal that to false, like this. Okay, perfect. So now we have declared all of our variables of each type. Now we have to print them to the console. So to print them to the console, we use the print statement. So we say print, and inside the print statement we type in whatever we want to print out to the console. In this case, we want to print out my number. So let's type in my number, like this, and end it with a semicolon. Let's do the same thing for the other variables. My decimal, end it with a semicolon, then print, let's print my name, and let's print is dead, like this. Okay, so now hit Ctrl S to save the script, go back to Unity, and then hit play. And now in the console we should see everything printed out, and as you can see, there's a 3, there's a 5.6, Joseph, and false. So we have successfully printed out every single variable to the console. So that's going to be it for this video. I'll see you in the next video.